William and Kate were recently saddened by the death of the family dog Lupo, which was followed by the Queen losing one of her beloved dogs. We asked royal biographer Penny Junor, who has written a book on Her Majesty's pets, to tell us more about the Windsors' love affair with their animals.
The Queen's love of corgis is well known all over the world, but she's now down to just one after the death a few weeks ago at Windsor of her beloved Vulcan. Vulcan actually wasn't a corgi, he was a dorgie, which was a cross between a corgi and a dachshund. Corgis are the Queen's favourite breed, but they're not so fashionable anymore, and the Kennel Club has put them on the endangered list. But what's not in danger are the family's love of dogs. The royal family for generations have loved dogs and have had many, many of them. Queen Victoria was the one who started it really, and she was one of the first people who made domesticated dogs popular. She brought across from Germany a dachshund, but she was the first person to import a dachshund into Britain. She had over 100 dogs of different breeds during her lifetime. Edward VII, Queen Victoria's son, inherited his mother's love of dogs. He was the one who bought Sandringham House in Norfolk, and he built a kennel there for his dogs. He bred Clumber Spaniels, which were hunting dogs. When the Queen inherited Sandringham, the kennels that Edward VII had built had become dilapidated and were too expensive to restore. And so she built a new block of kennels that housed 40 dogs. And over the years, she's had an extensive breeding programme of Labradors and Spaniels, and she's one of the best and most experienced breeders of gun dogs in the country. The Queen's favourite breed, and which it has been since she was a child, is the Corgi. She first encountered a Corgi when she was 7 years old, and she was playing with neighbours in their house in London who had a Corgi puppy, and she pleaded with her father to give her a Corgi. Now, the dorgie was created when Princess Margaret's dachshund got together with one of her corgis behind a bush and produced this rather endearing puppy. She liked the result so much that she carried on producing this crossbreed. Sandringham is the place for animals really, because she also has racing pigeons at Sandringham. I mean, again, this is something that people don't generally know about the Queen. And she also has budgerigars that she's had since she was a child, and she now has over 100 in an aviary at Windsor. All of the Queen's children have dogs. None of them have corgis. It's interesting that they haven't developed their mother's love of corgis. Prince Charles has had Labradors over the years, and then he moved on to Jack Russells, and he's now got 2 Jack Russells that actually belong to Camilla, who rescued them from Battersea Dogs and Cats Home. Princess Anne actually has a criminal record on account of her passion for dogs. One of her dogs, a bull terrier, was passionate about moving wheels and ran after a child who was on a bicycle, squealing and shouting on a bicycle, and going after the wheel, unfortunately got the child and bit him. Anne hasn't had much luck with her dogs. There was another occasion when Princess Anne arrived at Sandringham for Christmas on Christmas Eve, and she arrived with her 3 bull terriers, and the Queen's corgis, who were inside the house, came racing down when they heard the door opening, and the dogs met in the doorway, and one of Anne's bull terriers savaged one of the Queen's corgis and damaged it so much that the next day it actually had to be put down. The corgis are all house dogs, and they all have their own baskets, raised from the floor so as not to be drafty, and they are fed on a wonderful diet of meat that is hunted on the royal estates. So they'll have rabbit, deer, whatever's going. They don't eat off silver plates, as you might imagine. They have very practical sort of bowls like the rest of us have. These bowls are brought on a silver tray into the room where the Queen is waiting for them by a footman. The Queen then pours her own gravy mixture over the food and adds whatever homeopathic or herbal remedies each dog needs. And she then gets them all sitting in a semicircle around her. These are in the days when she had many dogs. She had up to 10 at one time. And she would get them all seated in a semicircle around her, and she would then, one by one, give the dogs their food, and not one ate their food until she gave the command. Since Queen Victoria's time, there has been a pet cemetery at Sandringham and actually at their other residences as well. Each dog gets a plaque on the wall or a gravestone engraved invariably with the name of the dog, the date of its life and death, and faithful companion to the Queen. I've been writing about this family for nearly 40 years, but it was only when I started writing about the Queen's relationship with her dogs that I realised that this is where the Queen is at her happiest. And as one of her cousins, Lady Pamela Hicks, once said, the Queen is a very private person. She longs to be in a room with nobody else. And if she has to choose between the dogs, the horses and friends, there is no doubt which one she would choose.